giving you more volume and more food to satiate that hunger, to keep the hunger at bay. Sup everyone, this is Dimitri, and today I'm gonna show you what I've been eating basically every day for the last few months. The infamous French toast, except it's gonna be my version of it. And actually I'm gonna show you two versions, one for bulking and the other for cutting. And for maintenance you could basically use any whichever one of these. There's a pretty big difference off the top of my head, around 650 calories for the bulking version and around 450 for the cutting version, for about the same amount of food, or actually more for the cutting version. Basically the recipe consists of an aromatic mix consisting of cinnamon, vanillin, or you could use vanilla extract, PB2, PB feed, whatever kind of defatted peanut flour you can find, some sweetener, and some protein powder. Basically you can use any kind of protein powder that you want. I wouldn't recommend using something like strawberry or any kind of berry or fruit flavor, but something like cookies and cream, peanut butter, vanilla, anything will work fine. What I like to do is prepare a whole lot of this mix for the future, so that I don't have to remake it every time. So for this mix, for one portion, I'm gonna need 7.5 grams of protein powder, an amount of sweetener that's equivalent to 50 grams of sugar. So for me that's gonna be 5 grams. 7.5 grams of peanut butter flour, half a gram of vanillin, and some amount of cinnamon to taste. So I'm gonna make enough mix for 4 servings. So I'm gonna need 30 grams of protein, 30 grams of peanut butter flour, 20 grams of sweetener, a whole pack of vanillin, and 8 grams of cinnamon, which is half of this packet. And of course, I forgot a small pinch of salt, because salt makes everything, everything, tastier. Now, after you mix this up, you can transfer it to any kind of container. I just use this glass right here. It doesn't matter. And also what you should do is measure out how much this whole mixture weighs, because you could have added a bit more protein, a bit more sweetener, whatever, and just divide that weight by the amount of servings that you intended, so that you get equal portions every time. As you can see, I got 92 grams, which divided by 4 is exactly 23, so I'm gonna use 23 grams per portion. So, the cutting version first. What I'm gonna need is 5 eggs, and I'm just gonna use the egg whites, because the egg yolks have a bunch of calories, a bunch of extra fat, which you don't need for fat loss, because it doesn't provide much satiety at all. You can also use packaged egg whites, and that would be preferable, but they're kind of rare to find around here, and they are also more expensive than using just regular eggs, and even if you account for basically wasting the yolks. So I've got myself here 200 grams of egg whites, and your eggs could be smaller, so I recommend weighing it out. So for the bulking version, it's gonna be 3 whole eggs and 1 egg white, giving you about the same amount of liquid, but with a whole lot of extra fat and micronutrients. Alright, so what we're gonna do now is soak this bread overnight, and I think it's a pretty good strategy for saving time, so that you don't have to do any of this in the morning. Alright, and speaking of the bread, for the low-cal version I've got these buckwheat buns. They're 192 calories per 100 grams, and these 3 buns weigh 150 grams, giving you more volume and more food to satiate that hunger and to keep the hunger at bay. And for the bulking version, I've got some regular ass bread, which is 240 calories per 100 grams, and I've got about 120 grams because it comes in 240 gram packages, so that's right enough for 2 times. Also, I've pre-cut these buns into 3 parts, which is gonna help to soak the bread evenly throughout. And I also cut the bread into these half slices. I think they're kind of cute, and also they're a lot easier to fit more of them into the pan. Right, and here's how to soak the bread properly. What I like to do is swish it around on both sides, and if it's a bun, you should poke the crust to make some holes for more even soaking, just like this with a fork. Alright, and what you want to do is put the hardest part, or the crust, to the bottom of the container, so that most of the liquid stays there and soaks into the crust, making it less tough. Alright, so we've got our 2 containers right here. You can just put them into the refrigerator overnight to let them soak and absorb all of this flavor. And I'm gonna meet you tomorrow for the taste test and for the macros. Alright, so it turns out my mic wasn't working, so I'm gonna have to voice over this. Basically what I was saying is I was surprised how good actually the cutting version was. That is kind of surprising considering how there's 20 grams more fat in the bulking version from the yolks. Of course, it's not just fat, it's also micronutrients, so for overall health you might consider that version better. But if you want to battle hunger, the cutting version is the way to go, especially considering how there's a lot less calories and more food volume. Also, don't forget that you can just simply add the fewer whole eggs into the mixture, so you could just use 1 whole egg and a bunch of more egg whites, or 2 whole eggs instead of 3, or you could use even more whole eggs than I prescribe. That's up to you. Of course, the more whole eggs you use, the more succulent and moist the inside of the French toast is gonna be, but you might actually not like that, and you might want to add more egg whites and keep the toast frying for longer to get it crispier and a better crust. It's definitely personal preference, and it's up to you to decide what better fits your goals and what's better for your taste buds. The good thing about this recipe is it's basically a blank slate. You could add different toppings like syrups or jams or chocolate chips, berries, or you could actually change the dry mix and add something else to it. Something like freeze-dried coffee, or maybe even ginger for something like a gingerbread vibe. I've tried both of these things and they taste pretty fucking good, and it's pretty good for variety, so you might want to give them a try. So anyway, I hope you liked the video. Follow me on Instagram, like and subscribe. This has been Dimitri, signing out.